What up, beautiful people? Welcome back for another Raw and True from my point of view podcast. My name is Kevin. They call me Skibbs.
What's good, y'all? It's Gray.
And what are we talking about today, Gray?
We're talking about the Insecurities, episode 5. We finally made it.
5. Insecurities. I feel like this is going to be a somewhat conversational topic. But before we go into it, I don't know, Gray, do you have like another quote of the pod that you can think about from your head? Some for the viewers to kind of think about, to kind of feel in their soul.
You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Let's go.
That's beautiful. I feel like that's valid,
especially
especially for my age, being 32.
21.
It definitely feels like sometimes I am not where I want to be in life. I see all my friends and family getting married, having kids, and I'm just here like single, trying to live my life. But I feel like I've gotten to the point where I've lived my life too much, and I just want to, just settle down. But I know for a fact that when the time comes and the time happens, that it will happen, and that's beautifully said. It doesn't matter what age you are, whatever you want to do in life is exactly what you want to do.
I think everyone it's like social media has kind of imposed this well, not journey, but this comparison between lives, you know what I mean? And so you are often comparing your normal life to the high life of someone else's, right? So it could be really detrimental, it could be really hurtful and almost impossible to kind of chase this dream of what could be for your life instead of focusing on what have been for your life, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's just something I wanted to put out there.
Nice. And
okay, so I mean, it sounds like you want kids and shit. Like, what we talking about, Kev?
before we get into all of that,
Okay.
let's just talk about disclaimer for real quick. Gray and I are not therapists. We're not coaches. We're not counselors. I have a minor in counseling, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Do you? I didn't even
I do.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
You're more qualified than me then. So.
But my counseling is more towards like listening. But I will honestly say, like, yeah, we're not any of this. This is just from our own perspective, and we're just trying to share and spread light onto others who have also had mental health things that have happened in their life. Because let's be real, a lot of us are struggling in many different ways, shapes, and forms. Whether it is you're trying to figure out how to live your life, whether it is you're a new mom, a new dad, or even you're a current mom and dad, single parent, doesn't matter. Or even if you're just trying to live life at the age of 30s. We're all going through our own things, and we're just trying to get through in life. So, on the topic of kids, I do want a family one day. I do want to have my own little youngin' running around and me chasing him to my heart's content, or to the fact where I'm like, this little boy needs to settle down, or girl needs to settle down. And I feel in the future, as of right now, single. As of right now, not talking to anybody. And when the time comes, it will happen. So, yeah.
All right, for sure. And for those who are wondering, this production day has ran a little bit later than usual. That's why everything's all dark. We have lights set up so you can kind of see us, and everything around us is dark. It's not the usual scenic background that we usually have in the Bay Area.
We're dedicated to this.
We're dedicated
to this. Yeah.
Welcome to episode 5, Insecurities. I want to start off by asking Kevin, we all know that mental health is embodied by many facets of life. One of those things could be insecurities. What insecurities do you have or have you had that really affected you growing up, and how have you overcome those those road bumps in a sense
Yeah, great question.
To get to where you are now?
Gray always dropping the great questions.
That's what I do, of course.
For me at least, when I was growing up, there was a lot of physical appearances that I personally didn't like about myself. I wish I was a little bit taller. We kind of mentioned this before. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. But yeah, for me, it's like I'm average height, 5'6", to say the least, and I wish I was a little bit taller, maybe like 5'10", 6 foot. So like
6 foot, average 6 foot. Okay.
When it came to it, like I knew for a fact that some ladies or some girls wouldn't really put their eye in my direction because of the fact that I wasn't so tall. I have a lot of friends that are taller than me. I feel like I'm the shortest one or somewhat around the shortest one, so their attention wouldn't be drawn to me. I also have a receding hairline. It's genetics, as they say. Some of my family members say it's not genetics and it's just your fault, whatever it may be.
Okay.
But I have a receding hairline. It's not the best. It's not like a crazy receding hairline where it's like, mid scalp or whatever. But it's to the point where I just know for a fact that I don't have the greatest hairline. And I don't have other body parts that I'm not really proud of. My calves are small as hell. It doesn't really give me insecurities, but it definitely plays a part to me, like being confident in the body I have. And for granted, like there's some things that I am proud of that I like. I like my smile. That's one of the things I do like. And I could say that's probably one of the best selling points, not selling points, but one of the best assets that I have is my smile. But as I've learned living life and continuing through life, I've learned that comparison is the thief of joy. I've learned that the more I compare myself to everyone around me, the more I won't be happy. Whether it be my friends, my family members, or even just people I see on the road or people I see walking down the street. The more I compare, the more I won't be satisfied in my own body. And I had to change that, which kind of relates to all the other topics we covered, which is changes and the reason and all this kind of stuff. But I knew for a fact, if I wanted to be happy in my own body and for whoever else to be in my life, I had to understand that this is the body I have. This is what I was born with. And I have to fully accept that. And so for me, I had to figure out how to be confident, which is what we also talked about, in my own self and confident in my insecurities. You hear media nowadays or people that get interviewed, like, all the famous hot models and all this kind of stuff, saying like, I really want a tall guy. I want him to have nice hair, and he has to have a really nice physique. And like some of that stuff might be missing for you, but I will be honest and true that the person that you're supposed to be with will love you for who you are, no matter what you look like, because the one thing that makes them stay is the personality that you have. So whether it be you're funny, whether it be you're humble, whether it be you're chivalrous,
chivalrous.
Whether it be that you're kind, caring, or whatever it is, the person that truly loves you will love you for you. And like Gray has mentioned in previous podcasts, the initial looks is what gets us geared towards somebody, but what makes us stay is that that person's personality.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've mentioned before too, happiness is attractive, which is kind of the reasons why sometimes when you break up with your ex and all of a sudden they see you happy, they want to get back with you because of the fact that you're happy. And so, yeah, for me, insecurities are some of the things that I had to understand that it's part of me. And sure, my insecurities are going to happen, but what I really needed to focus on was my personality and how to become more mentally aware of that. those are my small sense of insecurities. Gray, what were your insecurities before or when you were younger?
Oh, I mean, man, insecurities run deep, real deep. Like growing up, I had parents that moved around a lot. I lived in areas that were a majority of non-Asian people, and so because of that, I had all these insecurities about the way I looked, the way I talked, if I was fitting in, and those things really affected me because I tried to change who I was to kind of fit in a little bit better with my surroundings, my environment. And those things I believed at that time were really unique to me, but I feel like it really isn't. Like, I'm sure there's people out there that are living more up north or more south, and you are the only quote unquote minority in your demographic, but you're not the only one. Um, and I know it sounds silly now, but like the way I talked and the way I looked, I remember like I used to practice talking in the mirror and having interactions with people because I felt like I wasn't pronunciating my words correctly or you know things of that nature, which is silly, because those things really doubted. It made me doubt who I was, and I really tried to change that person to better fit who I thought the world wanted me to be, which can take a toll. Um, and there are other things as well, like outside of just like the physical things. I grew up not necessarily surrounded with people who have encouraged the growth of myself intellectually, and I've always kind of been decent in school. But with that being said, there's a quote that I remember where it's, if your circle isn't encouraging you to grow, it's not a circle, it's a cage, right? I don't really know where I'm going with this right now because I had a few shots of tequila. Of course, like later on in life, I realized like these are just kind of steps, and I shouldn't be the smartest person in the room because to really be able to grow, you need to surround yourself with people that are better than you in a sense, right? So you can kind of pick up these in and outs from them. But those are just kind of some of my insecurities growing up, I guess.
I feel you, Gray.
Yeah.
Insecurities can lead to a lot more things, right? It could also make you shy. It could also make you feel like it could also make you doubt yourself of things in life. I resonate with Gray. There was times in my life, especially in high school, where I didn't really know how to keep a conversation going. I was just like Gray. I was always trying to come up with responses to certain things because I didn't know how to respond properly, or the fact that uh, I felt like sometimes my responses weren't good enough or they didn't resonate with others, which could also mean that, for me at least, I just didn't know how to keep a conversation going. So some of those things does resonate with me. But as I've gotten older and as I've gotten wiser, I've realized that those insecurities just make you who you are. We're all individuals and we're all different, and I'm pretty positive a lot of us have different types of insecurities. I mean, I feel like sometimes even most of the celebrities that we watch also have their insecurities because they compare themselves to other people as well or other celebrities. So what I've learned through it all is that insecurities are going to happen, but for us to remain confident and considerate of what kind of insecurities we have and just accepting it. I think that's the biggest part is accepting that whatever insecurities we have doesn't mean that we're going to be failures in life or going to be the worst people. And we gotta accept our insecurities, no matter what it is. Like I mentioned before, the person that will love you exactly for who you are, no matter what insecurities you have. Sometimes the insecurities we think of isn't even a big deal to others. Sometimes the insecurities we have are so small that others wish that they had what we had. And I think that really speaks volume, because it's like, for us, the things that we're tripping about isn't even that bad. Kind of like what I said earlier in a podcast, or one of our episodes, which was thoughts don't equal facts. Just because you have these thoughts doesn't mean that they're actually true. So it's best for us to understand that we gotta accept what we have. Whatever the cards are dealt with, we gotta accept it. Comparison is definitely the thief of joy. And the more you compare yourself to others, the more you're just not gonna be happy with what you have. And it's definitely self-sabotaged myself into relationships that I've had where I thought I wasn't good enough because of my insecurities. And I've heard that it also has hurt relationships that probably would have been the best relationships, but because of the fact that they had these insecurities, it just didn't work out the way they thought it would. So love yourself is basically what I'm saying. Love yourself for who you are. Love yourself for what God or whatever high being that you believe in has given you. And learn to do that. Most of the time, the stuff that we think about that other people might be judging us on isn't even that. Like, sometimes they're in their own world. Sometimes they're thinking about the issues they have, or the problems they have, or even the insecurities they have.
Mm-hmm.
And we're comparing ourselves to that because we think that they're thinking about our insecurities. And we've really got to just take it deep in and understand that we are who we are. There's no way of changing that. Like, for me, I can't get taller. At least I know of. I can get surgery, but it's like you got to pull some bones out of different areas for me to get taller. Or if I wanted to get a better hairline, I had to pull the hair from the back of my head in order to put that in. And I'm like, I don't want to do all that. Like, yeah. And yeah, so there's ways to fix your insecurities, but how long is this sustainable for?
It's interesting because I have met people that have came from out of state, out of the country, and you kind of see, like, even talking to my wife and hearing about some of the lifestyles of people in the Philippines, like these third world countries, these people have so much less than us, and we take what we have for granted so much, like having clean water, having electricity, being able to just believe in whatever we want to believe in, you know what I mean? And the list goes on. And I think that we're so cultured to, like, we're brought up to have this relationship with complaining, that it's just something that we kind of do as like second nature, right? And sometimes it's dope. Like, it's hard to, but it's dope to like really be able to like sit back and appreciate the things you have in life. But we've kind of mentioned that it's easier to kind of focus on the negatives and not the positives, and I feel like that's kind of something that is ingrained in us, and being able to break out of that cycle is something that we're trying to broadcast right now with this podcast and showing our perspective and point of views in life. But yeah, it's interesting because I've talked to people, and a lot of things that they regret, a lot of the things that they are insecure about are usually like the physical things, right? The way you look, the way you talk, the way the world sees you. And 80% of the time, people don't really give a shit about you. You know what I mean? Like, we were so caught up in this world that we're trying to impress others when no one is really paying that much attention to you. And we spend so much of our lives trying to impress others, and it gets to the point where like for me, for instance, I'm 34, and I'm just at that point where I really don't even care anymore. So
He's 21, guys. 21.
21. And so, yeah, like, like from the way I carry myself to the clothes that I wear now, it's all about comfort. And I have so much joy now compared to where I was a few years back when I was dressing and acting a certain way to impress others.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of bananas.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I guess my goal is to kind of preach what I've learned to hopefully, give some guidance to those out there where you don't need to do these things because that's what society has imposed on you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to follow these patterns. You can wear, you can say, you can act however it is you want, as long as you're not imposing negativity to others and yourself. You know what I mean? And that's all that really matters nowadays is, you take care of yourself. If that makes any sense.
It's facts. No, Gray has touched up on a lot of it, right? Like when we start to stop thinking about what other people have opinion on our lives, we start to be more happy internally with what we're doing in our lives, right? Like once I stopped caring about what other people thought about how I dressed, how I looked, what my hairline looked like, I was more happy with what I was doing, you know? I still wear hats, but like when I go to the gym, like I don't wear hats as often. Or even the fact that like sure I may be short, but I can walk like I'm like one of like 6 foot tall because of the fact that I know my personality is good enough. And everything that Gray mentioned, right? It's like once we stop to think about what other people think, then we start to really understand that the only person's thoughts that really matters is our own, right?
Yeah.
The more you try to impress other people, the more you're gonna get let down because of the fact that like expectations, they just lead to disappointment because you're never going to surpass what other people expect of you. The only thing that you can make yourself happy on is what you want out of life. And the only person you can really truly make happy is yourself. And going on my healing journey, I've understood that like it doesn't matter what other people think about me. It matters most about what I think about myself. Because at the end of the day, obviously being single, but at the end of the day, when I'm in bed by myself, it's me by myself in my bed, and nobody else around to judge me or think differently of me. It's basically me in my bed with my own thoughts. And the other thing too is like if you're constantly trying to make somebody more impressed or more fascinated by you or trying to impress others, I think I said that already, but the more you do that, the more you're going to keep doing that because you feel like there is no ceiling for that. You feel like there is no tops for how much you can impress somebody because you feel like they're always going to be disappointed or the fact that they're just going to keep constantly judging you. And so I've learned, sure, they're going to keep judging me. So what? That's fine. But as long as I know for a fact that I'm doing the best I can and I'm impressing myself, that's all I can really show up for.
Thank you. And yeah, to kind of piggyback off of Kev, like, it's interesting how we kind of grow up having these insecurities where we don't really know where they stem from. So, either it being from you trying to dress yourself as a child and your parents are like, no, you look silly. So you have this ingrained like idea or this self idea of like what isn't socially accepted and how the things you do isn't necessarily good enough. All these little things you don't necessarily pick up on at the time. I think all these things kind of build up to kind of develop this sense of insecurity and sense of self-doubt. And I believe that's something that's really important for myself as a parent to not do to my child. And I want him to feel like he's able to make these decisions on his own and not feel like he's doing anything wrong. And of course, take it with a grain of salt. If he's doing something that I feel is going to hurt him, in some shape or form, then I'm going to give him guidance and let him know. But that's all I can really do, is to let him know that this is what I think he should do, or to give him some kind of like wisdom from my point of view. And if he decides to not follow my teachings, cool, let him learn. And if he does, accept it and it helps him, then that's my job as a parent, is to make sure that he's A1 from whatever advice I can give him.
A bunch of insecurities that we kind of have, and we just gotta learn to accept them. Yeah. No matter what happens in life.
All right, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and end this episode 5 for the insecurities, and we're gonna segue into episode 6, which is gonna be, Kev,
resentment.
The resentments of our lives.
Resentment.
Stay tuned.
I love you, Mom.
Thank you for tuning in for the Raw and True podcast from our point of view. Stay tuned, y'all. Peace.